Hey everyone, welcome back to our Develop in SwiftUI series, where we're taking a look at the developer tutorials in order to kind of have a guided way of learning all about SwiftUI. And we've been focusing a little bit on data modeling. Also, new microphone. Who's this? Anywho, last time we took a look at navigating sample data where, when we don't always have the full picture in our app and we want to kind of test how things work, we can actually use sample data to kind of play around with before we share our app in production with the world. Along with writing tests, this is a really important skill for development and something I need to honestly practice doing a little bit more, but super important when working with data modeling and especially SwiftData. Today, we're going to be doing create, update, and delete data. Some people might refer to this as CRUD, C-R-U-D. So let's go ahead and click on the article here. You can also click on the link in the description below if you do want to follow along. Speaking of links, there are also the project files with a completed version of what we created last time, because this is going to be a follow-up on our friend's favorite movie project. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on in. I'm going to go ahead and move this over. I'm going to go ahead and open on up Xcode, and we can open our friend's favorite movie project here. Let's quickly take a look at what we built last time. So we had a list of friends, and we also had a list of movies that were created with sample data. We're also able to click on these different detail views in order to be taken to their corresponding page. So when we have Rich, Elena, right, we have those different pages here. Even when we go through the movies, we can see the detail view. We don't really have too much populated in here, so maybe today, because the edit data and detail view, we'll be including a little bit more data, or even a way to kind of edit what that data shows. All right, so in section 1, we have a list of friends and movies, which we just saw, a way to navigate between them, and the tabs, amazing. And in this section, we're going to actually be building those different custom detail views for both of our model types, so the friends and the movies, so that people can edit the friends or the movies. And step 1 is just telling us, hey, make sure you have it open. And in step 2, we're creating a new SwiftUI file. So I'm going to right click on the left side of our screen here. You can also use the plus button in the bottom as well. We're going to be creating a new file from template. We're going to do the SwiftUI view. It wants us to call this one friend detail. Wonderful. Alrighty, so we're going to declare a new variable, and we're going to do that within our structure before our variable body sum view. And we're going to do an @bindable. So not binding, but bindable. This essentially allows us to pass a binding to it or to any of its properties. So when we think of things like text fields, you know how we usually have like that name or whatever the information going into the text field as a binding value? Instead, we're going to say, okay, this variable here, it's something that can be attached just like a binding variable. So this works because all model classes in SwiftData are actually observable, which allows SwiftUI to track changes in their properties. So when we look at like state private variables, when we're like increasing a number, we can actually see those changes real time on our view. Okay, so we need to give this a name, and we're not going to make this one private because, we're going to be working and sharing this data. We're going to call this one friend, and we're going to conform this to the friend class. Now, we do have an error in our code because we need to fix this within our preview, but it ensures us we're going to be fixing it later. So we're going to swap on over to our sample data Swift file here. We're going to create a computed property to return a sample friend. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and scroll on up a little bit. While we're in our class here, we don't want to go all the way down there. After our variable of context, create a new variable for friend. Just going to conform to the friend, we'll add our brace, and we'll say that this is the friend.sampleData. We're going to use the dot first here. We can take a quick look at what first is referring to, and this is basically just going to be that very first element of a collection. Typically in an array, this would be represented by 0. Now we're also adding the exclamation point here because this is going to unwrap an optional. Essentially, whenever we use a exclamation point, we're saying, yeah, I know this is optional, but I promise you it's going to be included. We can see here in the notes, use it only when you're certain the value is present or a crash won't impact people using your app, such as in preview code. So I like to think of this as the don't worry, I've got you bro symbol. Something I've also noticed is on line 18 here, they've made this a private initializer for the sample data class. So let's also make this a private initializer as well. In step 4, we're going to be adding another computed property, which makes total sense because not only are we dealing with friends, we're also dealing with movies. So we can even like copy and paste this if we want. I don't know how much time it'll save, but let's make this one movie or the movie class. and then capital M movie here. Again, we're keeping it with first and that force unwrap. All right, let's navigate back over to our friend detail here. And we'll notice in our preview, we are missing an argument, and we can pass along some detail to the preview in order to fix that. Sometimes when I'm really lazy and I'm not always using the preview, I'll just delete it, but we won't do that here. So when we're dealing with the sample data, remember we're doing that dot shared, and then we're going to reference the friend with the lowercase f. Ready, and we can see that our preview now launches. So in step 6, we're going to allow people to edit their friend's name. We're going to be replacing our placeholder here. Get rid of that. And we're going to be adding a text field. You can choose the type of the text field. I like to sometimes just use the SwiftUI object library. Go ahead and drag that in. We have our placeholders. So let's call this one name. And for the value, we've already created that bindable variable. So let's go ahead and reference it. We're going to add our $sign for binding. Friend, and then we're going to be passing along the name property there. The next important part is something we've learned before, which is the autocorrection disabled. When dealing with people's names, oh my goodness, disable the autocorrection. Can't tell you how many times myself and other people, when you're entering things like usernames, it kind of gets corrected. It's so annoying. All right, we're also going to be embedding the text field within a form. So when I'm embedding things, if possible, I like to right click on the element, select embed, and now we'll replace that container with form, and we can see it's all been wrapped up nicely. So forms are really great, especially for things like, actually uses a lot for settings. It has this nice preset, and essentially it's using a grouped inset list style, which is going to push content all the way to the top. We can see if we extend our preview a little bit here, Elena is all the way at the top and also away from the edges. So it's like a very simple kind of uniformed UI styling that we can use really easily. All right, in step 8, we're going to create another SwiftUI view file. You got it. So we're going to right click on the left side here, new file from template, SwiftUI view. We'll call this one movie detail, which makes sense. We do have a friends detail, so why not a movie detail as well? All right, let's see if we can remember our steps here. So we're going to create an @bindable, and we'll call this one movie, which conforms to the movie class. And then, we can start from scratch within here after deleting our placeholder. We can do a text field. Oops, text field. So we're going to have a movie title. And then we're going to have the text be a binding variable. So we're going to add a $sign of movie. And this time we're going to be referencing the title. So if we go back to our movie here, we not only have the title, but we also have the release date. I hope we actually add something where we can augment that release date. I think in the screenshot we saw that we will be. We also need to fix our preview, and we could do so by adding a movie, and which will relate to the sample data.shared.movie. Wonderful. Okay. Oh yeah, we are adding a date picker in step 10. So after our text field still within our form, go ahead and add a date picker. You can also use the object library. We'll give it a name, so release date. And then we're going to add a selection. And from here, we're going to have a binding variable. So we're going to use our $sign on our keyboard, which is going to be the movie. And then I believe we called this release date. Yeah, that's what auto kind of suggest is suggesting. And then after, we're going to add another comma. We can see here on the tutorial, I'll scroll over a little bit. We have displayed components of being the date. So displayed components of .date. And if you ever want to kind of play around with what else we can add, you can look at the dot notation. We can also do hour and minute, apparently. There you go, based on the locale as well. We'll leave it as date. All right, let's take a look at our preview here. And we can see we have the amusing space traveler and the date. And because it is a date and time picker, we can actually click on this and look at the calendar. Now this one's starting us out in 1988. All right, so now that we have the detail views to edit our data, we can actually use them in our navigation hierarchy. So we're going to update each list view to let people actually select a friend or movie and edit said details. Because right now when we kind of click on them, it just says, hey, this is the detail view for this person or movie. But we're going to actually allow them to edit and change that information. All right, we're navigating back to our friends list here in our Swift files. And let's find our navigation link. Okay, for me, it's on line 22. So instead of having this text here where we're saying, hey, this is the detail view for this person, like I was saying, we're instead going to reference that view we've created of friend detail. And you notice that we need to pass along some friend information, and that's just going to be the lowercase friend variable, which is what we're grabbing from this query up here. It also wants us to try clicking on a friend in the list and editing their name. You got it. Okay, let's go ahead and click on Rich. Oh, and we can see that we have this little spot where we can actually edit Rich's name because this is a text field after all. So maybe we'll change this to be Richard, if I could spell. So let's go ahead and return. We'll go back. Oh, hey, and it's updated to Richard. That's pretty cool. The only thing is because we're not augmenting this sample data, if we go here and we like kind of change something in the code, change it back, you notice that it does return to Rich. Okay, so our new detail view should customize its own navigation bar. So we're going to cut and remove the navigation title modifiers. Okay, so let's grab these two, the navigation title and the display style. I'm going to Command X. We're going to jump back over to our friend detail because that's what's being shown now. And after the brace of autocorrection disabled, so after the form here, we're going to go ahead and paste those two things. And now in order to actually view the navigation bar, we need to kind of trick our preview into thinking it's kind of in a navigation stack so we can actually see how that behaves. So we're going to right click on our friend detail preview here, go ahead and embed it, and we're going to say navigation stack. So now it's going to behave as if we were kind of navigating to it. We can see here, we do see friend at the top. Awesome. We're going to make the exact same changes to our movie list. So the text detail for movie view instead is going to be a reference to the movie detail passing along that movie, which is again just the movie variable from our query. And then we are referencing the singular movie in our for each. What else did we have? We also had the navigation title here. Let's go paste that in our view. So after the form, I think we're also missing the inline. So navigation display mode, inline, and we'll also update our preview again, trick it to being in a navigation stack. And there we go, movies, and we have our navigation stack being shown. So we can kind of see how it looks in the real app. Look at that, I don't even need the other steps. We're pros at this already. All right, section 3, create new data. We're gonna make it so people can add friends in movie to the app. Okay, because yeah, we kind of just have like the 5 or 6 that we're working with, and then we can't really add them. We can change them, but you know, adding new things to the list will be pretty cool. So we're going to open up our friends list Swift file here, and we're going to add a private function to insert a friend. So typically with these private functions, I like to put them at the bottom. So I'm going to double click on my structure, and I'm going to go before the very last brace here, and I'm going to create a private func. We'll call this one add friend. We don't need anything within the parameters here because we're going to be using context to insert that friend name of just being new friend. We're not grabbing that information from anywhere yet. So we'll do context.insert and be a capital F friend. And we can even use our autofill here with the name. And the kind of placeholder we're going to be using is new friend. We're also going to be exploring toolbars in this, which is really great, a really handy UI tool. Get it? Toolbar. I'm funny. Okay, so after our navigation title here, this is where we're going to be adding a toolbar. This is something that we want to be keeping within our kind of split views or our navigation views. So we're going to be adding a dot toolbar, add a brace, and add a space. We're going to be populating it in step 3 with a toolbar item, which we can reference with the capital T toolbar item and also adding a brace afterwards. In a little bit, we also will be learning that we can kind of position these items differently. But for now, let's go ahead and just add a button here. So we'll add a button and let's give it the title of add friend. We can give it a system image. We'll go ahead and call it plus. And we'll assign it an action. So what action are we going to be using? Well, that's going to be the add friend. Now you'll notice that it's kind of suggesting that we add friend with the empty parameters, but if we do, we get an error. So something that we often have to do with actions when we're kind of doing our buttons this way is to not actually include the parameters. All right, in step 5, we're going to make some changes to let people actually add movies, and we're going to switch to the movie list file and create a add movie method. Okay, so basically what we've done here, except for movies. Let's go near the bottom, private function, add movie, empty parameters, add a brace, context, insert, and let's do the movie model. And it'll be a title and a release date. So our placeholder will just be new movie. And the release date will just be .now, so the very absolute current point in time. We're going to be adding a toolbar here as well. Still within our navigation split view, .toolbar. Add our brace. We'll add the toolbar item, add a brace again, button, add movie, add the system image of a plus sign. We'll add an action, which would be that add movie. Again, we don't want those additional braces. And we can kind of see, I don't think I showed it last time on the preview, we have this little plus button. And when we press it, we're adding a placeholder of new movie. Click on it, has the title of new movie and the release date, which is the current point of time. Okay, so we've learned how to create data. How about we delete data? And you know, when we're creating lists, this is one of those essential operations, right? We can add things, but what if I want to get rid of this movie? Well, in most apps, we can actually select it and slide it and delete it. In this case, we can't quite do that yet. All right, starting off in our movie list, we're going to implement a delete movies method. So after our add movies, let's go ahead and add our private function of deleting movies. We can actually pass something through within the parameters this time. We're going to be referencing the indexes, which is going to be the index set. This is because this method specifically works with the index set containing the kind of index of all the movies in the array and everything that should be deleted. We're going to go ahead and add our brace. And we're going to actually wrap this in a for in loop. So we're going to say for index in indexes. Go ahead and add our brace and we'll have our context. We're going to be doing the dot delete this time. And this is going to be for the movies. And we're going to add a square bracket because we are dealing with an index or like kind of a set of things array. And that's going to include the index within here. So essentially, we're going to access each movie in the array using a subscript of the movie's index. And then we're going to pass the movie to delete inside of the method of the model context. So it's able to kind of loop through them and also locate and delete that specific one. All right, and we're going to actually be using a built-in modifier here, which is the on delete. So let's scroll back on over to our list. All right, and at the end of the for each here, while still within the list, we're going to add the dot on delete. We're going to do the autofill with perform. What action are we going to be doing? Well, that's going to be the delete movies. We just use the autofill. We've created this function for a reason. So now it wants us to quickly test. So when we want to perform the on delete, we can see here, swipe right from the left on a movie. Go ahead and grab it. It could be a little funky on the simulator compared to like actually using your finger on the phone. We can see here we have this little delete key that popped up and we can press it to confirm to actually get rid of it. And if you really want, you usually can actually select this and kind of do one big swipe. Again, kind of hard on the simulator, I find, to delete it. There we go. All right, we're also going to be adding the edit button here. So in our toolbar, we currently have a way to add the movie. So after this toolbar item, we're going to add another one. We're going to add our brace. So we're going to add another one, and we can actually use the brackets to kind of say, hey, this is where I want you to be. We're going to use the placement, and then we're going to give it a location. We have automatic, but we want this one to be top bar trailing. And just like with a lot of things in SwiftUI, you can kind of use that trailing, leading, etc. to kind of determine where this goes. We're going to add a brace, and we can actually use a built-in kind of function here, the edit button. So edit button with empty parameters. This is something that's a little bit built in, and it's going to be making those delete actions even easier for users to discover. So if we press on the edit, we can actually see we have these little lines come up, which are then also going to delete. Because we can select on this, it kind of performs that, on delete swipe thing. And then when we press on this, our function is being performed. We can press done. Phone users know you can kind of swipe to delete, but this just makes things a lot easier for any users using your app. Okay, and we're going to be going over everything again in the friends list. Let's go ahead and see if we can remember what we need to do. So we're going to start off by a private function, and we'll call this one delete friend. I guess friends will follow the thing exactly. Indexes, which is going to be that index set. We'll then add our brace. We can do that for index. In indexes, our brace, context, delete. And that's going to be for the friends model this time. And we're going to reference that index location after our for each. So still within our list, add the dot on delete perform. We call it delete friends. We leave the indexes just as is. What else did we do? Toolbar. Yep. It's all coming back to me. So after this one, toolbar item, let's give it a position, placement. There we go, which is going to be bar trailing or leading. Let's do top bar leading. Let's see where that puts it. We'll add our brace and we'll add the edit button with empty parameters. Okay, it definitely wasn't top bar leading. It's probably trailing because now it's over here. And we can see those different locations. Top bar trailing. Yeah, there it is. I guess trailing is all the way over to the right, trailing behind, yeah, something like that. And just double check in. Okay, we did it. Awesome. So in order to enable the app to actually work in the simulator with our own data in SwiftData, we need to switch the friend's favorite movie app file and add a model container. So let's go to our app file here. After where we're booting to the content view, we're going to add a .model container, and we're going to establish this for a couple things. The first thing is going to be the movie.self, and because we have multiple things, we are putting these within those square brackets. And then the other one is the friend.self. So we've used the variant of the model container that sets up a complete SwiftData environment for us based on the model types that we supply. So we won't see any of the data the first time we launch the app. The sample data model context is only linked in those previews, right? So if we go to the friends list here, and we're kind of injecting it with the model container, we're basically saying, hey, only show me the sample data. However, when we're actually launching the app here with this model container, we're saying, okay, give me the movie and the friends, not the sample data. And as a note, we actually don't have to import SwiftData at the top of our file here to use the model container modifier, which is something I didn't know, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, we're going to test it out in the simulator. So we're going to select our phone from the top here. I'm just going to leave it on the iPhone 16 Pro, and let's go ahead and run our app. Alrighty, and we have our application with friends here. Let's go ahead and add some friends. We can see that we have the new friend appear. We'll go to their detail view. I'm gonna go ahead and call this one Steve. Now we hit return. We can see we do have our friend Steve here. Oh, I think I'm missing the navigation title for the movie. Okay, we can fix that later. And let's go ahead and make this the Minecraft movie. Awesome, we can click on it. And we can still edit and update any of this information. So if this is coming out in the future, Minecraft movie 1, 2, 3. We can see that those changes are being made. Let's go ahead and edit this. You can, delete it. Go to our friends here. Bye-bye, Steve. You are being deleted. So our app works, and we also have the saved data. If we recreate Steve real quick, and we actually stop our app and run it again, we can see that when it loads, Steve should return. There he is. Alrighty, we are going to improve the data entry by using a sheet. So currently when we are editing things, we're kind of just going to that detail view, and it kind of works, but for adding a new character, maybe having a sheet that's going to be modularly presenting in front of people for a task is going to be a whole lot better. So we're going to be using the sheet because it's going to kind of pop up, and then people know, oh, hey, yeah, this is where I add that friend. And it's going to kind of push that other view into the background. Still visible, but kind of inactive by default. We're going to be starting in our friends list this time. Let's go ahead and also reload our preview. We're going to be adding a state private variable here for our new friends. And we're going to make this a friend with a question mark. So we're using our question mark to mark something as optional, saying that, new friend might hold an instance of friend, or it might hold nothing, aka when we're working in Swift, nil. And just as a note here, whenever we're creating a structure and anything that has that question mark, so being set as optional, it's actually going to basically default it to nil unless otherwise specified. Alrighty, and in our function of add friends, let's go ahead and scroll back down here. Before our context, we're going to say, we have a new friend, which is going to equal the friend. And then we're going to give it a name, and we're just going to have that name be an empty string. And we also need to update our context insert. So I'm just going to delete everything within those brackets. And we're going to be passing along that constant of new friend. And then we're going to set the self.newFriend to equal new friend. So we're essentially creating a new friend local variable within the function of add friend. That's going to kind of shadow the state private variable property we just created by the same name. Then within inside the method or function, we're going to prefix self to refer to the view's specific property. All right, we're going to be displaying a sheet for the new friend with inside the closure. We're going to be using the friend parameter to display that specific detail view. So before our detail here, which means essentially right after our toolbar, we're going to be adding the dot sheet, and we're going to be looking for the item, which is going to be that binding variable of new friend. We're then going to add a brace, and we'll say that the friend in the friend detail, we're going to use our autocomplete here, going to be for that lowercase friend. So let's go ahead and try to add a new friend here, and we should see that a sheet kind of pops up, and it does. And we can see that it's representing that detail view. Instead of kind of clicking on something and navigating to it, we now have the sheet where we can add a new friend. Let's go ahead and add Bobby. We can actually grab the top of the sheet and swipe down, and we can see that Bobby has indeed been added, but you know, this is a little bit scuffed right now. And I don't think too many people are going to know to actually swipe away that sheet. We kind of want to add another or more user-friendly way of dismissing the sheet. So what we're going to be doing is actually showing the navigation bar and the detail view when it's presented. We're going to wrap it in a navigation stack. So we have our friend in, then our detail. So let's right click on our friend detail view here, use our embed trick, navigation stack. So now when we do the press, we can kind of see that we have our title of friend. Still needs a little bit of work, but we'll get there. Okay, let's go to our movie list this time, and let's go ahead and repeat this process. So we'll create a state private var, and we'll call it new movie. And we're going to make this a optional movie with our question mark. Then we're going to update our add movie here, and we're going to say let new movie equal movie, and we want the title and the release date. So we'll make the title an empty string. And we can also make this now. Go ahead and get rid of the things inside the context insert. And we're just going to be passing along that new movie constant. And then we'll have our self.newMovie equal the new movie. All right, and we also want to add that sheet. So after our toolbar, we'll add a dot sheet. The item we want is the binding of new movie. Add a brace, movie in. We can start off with our navigation stack if we really want to. Add a brace, and then we're going to go to the movie detail. And we want that movie, which is going to be that lowercase movie value. All right, we'll do a quick experiment with our movie. Wonderful. We can add the movie title. Step Brothers. We can swipe it away, and we can see that has been added. Now to make it a whole lot more user-friendly, because I don't like dragging those sheets down, we're going to be adding a cancel and save button to our sheet, because typically with sheets, and I think I usually mention this in our navigation videos, we can usually like press a button or like a little X in the top left. Like think of when a pop-up ad appears, we can usually just like press something to get rid of it. Same thing with the sheet. We don't want to like take it and drag it. We just kind of want to press like a cancel or save or something, right? So in step 1 of the section, we're going to be opening up the friend detail file, and we're going to be using the toolbar modifier to add a save button. So if we remember from last time, we can add this after the form, add a toolbar, we'll add a brace here. Okay, we'll add our toolbar item, and we can give it a placement. And something cool for this one is we're actually going to be setting it to be the dot confirmation action. So this item represents a confirmation action for a module interface. Let's go ahead and add that. So it's going to kind of put it in the top right, I believe. Top right save, and then top left cancel. Okay, and let's go ahead and add our brace, and then we'll say button save. We're then going to add a brace afterwards. When people tap the save button, we need to be able to dismiss that sheet, and also when they cancel it too. So we're going to create an at environment to track, you know, kind of what's going on in our view. And we're going to use the /.dismiss here. And we're going to also assign it to be a private variable of dismiss. Now, when people press the button for saving, we're just going to call upon our dismiss. Oh, and make sure you spell button correctly. So the dismiss environment value is actually a function. And when we call it, SwiftUI is going to dismiss the current module presentation, aka dismiss that sheet. So we can do a really quick test. If we go to our content view, let's click on the plus button here. And if we hit save, you can kind of see that it kind of disappears. We didn't have to swipe it away. Okay, back in our friend detail, we're now going to be adding the cancel. Because we've already set up the dismiss, this is going to be even easier. So let's make sure we're outside of this toolbar item. So we're going to go down 2 braces. Yeah, 2 braces. We'll create another toolbar item, add some placement. And for this one, we can do the cancellation action. We'll add a brace, add another button, cancel, brace, and we're just going to reference our dismiss as well. Now for step 5, in order to get the SwiftData model context from set environment, within the action of the cancel button, we're going to actually use the model context to delete that friend when canceling. Because right now, as soon as we press that plus button, it's already creating that placeholder for new friend. So what we need to do is whenever we do dismiss, we need to actually remove it from the view before the user even knows it was there. So we're going to create another at environment. And this one's going to be the / model context, just a private var, a model context. So I know sometimes in the tutorial, if we don't have our page opened all the way, we kind of don't get to see everything. But in our cancel, we actually also need to go and add a context.delete. And we're just going to be passing along that friend because again, it's adding it in the background, but when we cancel, we actually want to remove that current friend that we're holding because we're saying, oh wait, never mind, don't add this to the view. So we're going to switch to the content view and verify that we can add or remove. I think we've already verified the adding. Let's go ahead and press this, Bobby real quick, save. And then we'll add this, and we can see right here, if we kind of scroll down, we have this blank spot for this new friend, even if we want to give it some text here. And now when we press cancel, we can see that that AAA or that blank friend is actually gone. Now the next thing is we need to also add it for the movies. So let's go ahead and do this all over again. So we're gonna go to our movie detail. And we can even start from the top and work our way down because we already know what we kind of want to add. We're going to add 2 environments. The first one for being that dismiss, so / dismiss, private var, dismiss, add another environment, the / model context of private var context. Okay, and let's go ahead and add our toolbar. So after our navigation stuff, .toolbar, go ahead and add our brace. We'll then add our first toolbar item, and we're going to add the placement, which is going to be the confirmation action. Add a brace. We're going to go ahead and add our button here, and we'll call this one save. Add our brace, and this is just going to dismiss with those empty brackets. And then after this toolbar item, we'll add another one. This placement will be the cancellation action. Go ahead and add another button, and this one will be cancel. Add a brace, and we'll start by deleting from the context, so context.delete, and we're going to be deleting that movie, and then we'll go ahead and dismiss after that with our empty brackets. Okay, section 7, adapting the detail view to the different contexts, because currently our present detail view, you kind of see it in 2 ways, in a sheet when adding a friend or movie, and in a navigation split view when editing a friend or movie. We're then going to tailor the interface to the 2 contexts that they are being displayed in. So we're going to start off in our friend detail here, and we're going to be adding a new property, which is a Boolean value to track whether or not something is new. So I'm going to say let is new be a Boolean value. We're then going to create a custom initializer. Let's say init, which is going to have our friend of our friend class, and then we're going to be tracking if whether or not it is new or not. So we'll say is new of a Boolean value. And we're actually going to be providing this with a value, right? With the friend, we're just saying, yeah, just grab the friend, and is new, it's a Boolean value, but then we're actually setting it to be initially false. We'll talk about the reason for why in a second. We're then going to reference self for the friend equal friend, and then the self.isNew. Instead of reference the isNew value, and that's going to reference the isNew value. So our existing code creates 2 friend detail views in the friends list with the friend detail for friend. In the case that the ifNew parameter didn't have a detail value, we need to add an argument to those existing calls to the initializer. And by using that default parameter, we avoid that issue. We're then going to be using a ternary operator, so that really quick if-else statement, to choose the appropriate navigation based on whether that value is new. Are we editing a friend, or are we adding that new friend? So in our navigation title, we can basically say, okay, so if we're navigating to a new friend, say new friend, otherwise go to friend. So at the very start is this bracket here, I'm going to say is new. We're going to add our question mark. We're going to say new friend, and then we're going to add our colon, and then we'll have friend. So if it is indeed a new friend, I'm going to display the title of new friend. Else, in the case if it's an old friend, we're going to display the title of just friend. We're then actually going to be able to add a second preview down here, so we can actually see how it looks when we're viewing an old friend or when we're viewing a new friend. If I could actually spell preview, there we go. And we can give it a title of new friend within the parameters here. Go ahead and add a brace. We're going to make this a navigation stack. Add a brace, which is going to be for that friend detail. And we're going to choose the one with the friend and is new. So for the friend, we're going to be grabbing our sample data here, not shared. dot friend, and for the is new, we're going to set this one to be true because yeah, we're looking for that new friend value. And you'll notice at the top of the screen here, might take a second to load, we get a new preview that we can click on for that new friend. So we can see when we're adding a new friend, it shows us here. Otherwise, since we're looking at existing friends, it just says friend. You know what, we can even just like look at existing friend, so it makes a little bit more sense. All right, and we're going to wrap our toolbar here within a if statement to only include them when we are adding a new friend, right? Because for the existing friend, it doesn't really make the most sense to have the cancel and save, especially if we already have that navigation leading back to the main page. So we're next going to wrap the toolbar items, not the toolbar itself, within an if statement. So within the toolbar, we're going to say if is new, add a brace. And what I would do is double click on the toolbar, and we're going to add an extra brace within here. And then we can see that the is new kind of encapsulates all of these toolbar items. So in the case that they are new, we'll be able to see the cancel and save. If it's not new, well, we're already navigating within the stack, so we're going to have that back button, right? So we can use our previews to verify. New friend, we can see the cancel save. Otherwise, we don't see it. In the actual app, we have that back button in the top left. We don't have to worry about it. All right, in our friends list, we're going to pass the true to the is new parameter and the detail view that's presented with the sheet, right? Whenever we're looking at the sheet, we're adding a new friend. So within this friend detail friend, we're going to add a comma is new to be true. We can actually verify. So if we click on Elena, we don't see the cancel. We just say friends. We press plus. We see cancel and save. Wonderful. A good trick I learned from this tutorial is the interactive dismiss disabled one. So with the sheet, currently we can still drag it down, right? And that's not great because we can see this kind of blank space here. At the end of this navigation stack, we can actually add the dot interactive dismiss disabled. So now when we press plus, we can actually only drag it down slightly. And you know, it's kind of like a little trick because we can't see that blank placeholder friend anymore. So they're none the wiser. So we're going to switch to our movie detail and get some practice doing it again. All right, so we're going to start off by creating a new let for is new, which is a Boolean value. We'll then add the custom initializer. So we had the movie, which conforms to that capital M movie, and we had the is new, which is a bool. And we had that equal a default value of false, and add our brace, and we'll have our self dot movie equal the movie, and then the self dot is new equals is new. We're also going to add the second preview for testing. So hashtag preview. We're going to call this one new movie. Going to make this a navigation stack. Add our movie detail. That's along our movie and is new. This is going to be the sample data, shared, movie, and then the is new is going to be set to true. We'll then set the title to be based on the condition again. So is new question mark, and let's start with the new movie. And then maybe we can just say existing, or you can just leave it as movie. It's totally up to you. I think existing makes a little bit more sense in my head. Oh, I forgot the colon for the ternary operator there. We also want to hide with our if is new in the toolbar here. So go ahead and add our brace and make sure we're wrapping it up appropriately. Then in movie list, we're going to be passing along that value of it being true, right? It is a new movie after all, so is new would be set to be true whenever we're pressing that plus button. So congratulations, we have created an iOS app that we can edit. Let's go ahead and run this in the simulator real quick so we can get that full app experience. And something as this is loading up, it's saying that anyone who is familiar with that iOS, as I was mentioning earlier, with like those kind of default lists, will be familiar with, like they can swipe it, they can add it, plus it will feel like a very iOS user-friendly application. Okay, we can see our app is loaded up. We still have Steve from last time. We can see when we plus, can't drag it down all the way. We have the cancel and save. When we look at Steve, we can only return to the friends. Same thing with the movie. So add Minecraft movie and save it. We can even see, we can click on it. We can swipe and delete, press edit, or we can delete it that way as well. Congratulations, this is a pretty cool app, and just as a little spoiler, we will be continuing this in the next tutorial. I know, what else could we possibly add? Okay, let's go ahead and check our understanding here. So wrapping a view in a navigation stack displays its navigation title. If one exists, that would totally be true. So when we have our navigation stack here, if that title exists within the, even when it's in the movie detail, right, we don't have to even include it down here. If we go to the movie detail, we can see that's where we're passing through that navigation title. So if it exists, it's gonna kind of be shown to the user. What is necessary to display items provided in a toolbar modifier at the top of the screen? Okay, we need to be in a navigation bar view in the body, use toolbar hidden to pass false to the argument, ensure that the view is enclosed in a navigation stack, either the current view or a parent view. That's right. So the navigation bar displays content at the very top of the screen. The toolbar modifier adds items to it. How can we control the presentation of a module sheet? Use a sheet view and pass a binding to an optional state property, then assign value to the property. Use a sheet view inside. If else, use a sheet modifier. Answer 1 and 3 are very close. It's going to be answer 1, but let's just quickly take a look at one of our sheets here. So if we go to our friends list or even movies list where we had that sheet, we're using the sheet modifier, this dot sheet here, and we were tracking it with that new friend here. Let's go ahead and submit that. That is correct. We can always display a sheet by making it dependent on the presence of a value. Wonderful. So let's go ahead and wrap on up here. So we can reflect quickly on the concepts. We learned about that module content in the form of the sheet, as well as the component views, both for creating as well as editing any existing items. This was something that was super reusable and flexible because we were basically using the same thing, whether it was a new friend that we were adding or a friend that we were editing. So just about the skills covered, the reusable views, modifying the data models with bindable, the form container view to kind of keep everything, well, formed, and displaying the sheets. We also talked a little bit about optionals with the question mark and the exclamation point, aka that don't worry homie, I've got you, and the custom view initializers as well. So you can extend your app and you can revisit birthdays. However, if you want to continue building this application, in the next chapter, working with relationships, we will be continuing to build upon this concept. Thanks for following along. Dream big, code bigger, and we will see you in the next one with relationships.